show as always. I'm your host, Fireball Texas. With me today, we're just keeping it off the video today. Although I will have to find a way to get you guys in here real quick while we do the introductions. Give me 1 second, because Chris is with us with Bryce Smith, Bimble44 as always. I'm trying to get this where I can pull you guys up. Chris Donaldson. I don't know where he's coaching. I just can't picture it up here. Go Bulldogs. But Chris, you want to introduce yourself? What do we need to know?
Lifelong gamer. Love sports. I'm a sports addict. I can't wait to put in all the hours and grind and hopefully win some natties.
That sounds like everyone's ambition here, and that's what this show is all about. We're going to show you how we're going to do it. EA threw us a major curveball last week when they said we could only have 32 players per dynasty, but we were already anticipating that, so it's not a big loss. Actually, it freed up some other things so we can do cool things here at Select Talent that if we did have one dynasty, we have a little tougher time trying to pull off. So first things first, I'm just going to go over our schedule and how we're going to do that. So, but to begin with the end in mind, let me go ahead and show you guys something cute. This is the Select Talent Championship bracket. As you see, we have the teams broken down. It's basically two tournaments in one with one overall champion. But it is set up with the group of five, group of six in this case, having their own side of the bracket to keep things a little fair. We're not sure, just based on the information we have gotten out from EA, I think the power schools are going to be at a significant advantage. So we want to keep everything as fair as we can. We're going to get you guys a championship as well. So we would have two championship trophies, one for the group of six, one for the power four, and we're going to play it off together. But then that's going to leave the question of how do we get to that? And basically, the only way that you are going to qualify for the playoffs is to simply finish in the top four of your conference. You finish in the top four. If you're on the Mountain West or the Pac-7, because we're going to split those conferences up, if you finish in the top two of those, you get a bid. There's no at-large bids. Basically, it is like high school. You finish in the top four, you get an automatic bid. So however that plays itself out. So if you wind up in your conference's championship game and there are two teams, and it's a three-way tie, you may be bounced back to fourth. It's just going to depend on how that plays itself out, but we're just going straight off the standings. I thought that was the fairest way to do it. Bimble and Chris, any thoughts?
Go ahead, Chris, if you have a thought first.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's gonna definitely cause some variance, right?
Yeah.
Based on how you perform, which is all about what football is all about, right? So I think it's gonna work out perfectly.
Yeah, the biggest thing is because basically we have two conferences. Every conference is going to be paired with another. We've got a Power Four and a group of five, and then we've got the Western schools outside of the ones that have migrated to the ACC and Big Ten. They're basically in bubbles. So you can play the teams inside your bubble, but we don't really care about the non-conference games. The only reason we have to play the non-conference games inside the bubble, so if the Big Ten plays a MAC school, we have to play that because that's going to influence in some minor degree what your recruiting is going to do in the Dynasty. So what we have up here on screen, if you guys can see it, is week 0. Really, week 0, we only have one game.
Which is who?
That is Georgia Tech and Florida State. I know both coaches were trying to go ahead and get that scheduled up quick.
Cool.
So
that's great to see, actually. It's very
so
good.
We're going to have all eyes the first week, and what we're going to do is we're trying to mimic the schedule as much as possible, just to keep things simple in Season 1. Season 2, we're going to open that up if you want to start scheduling, and we do have another caveat. If you do wind up getting fired from your school and you want a shot, we're going to give you that shot. You can always have that revenge game. That would take priority on scheduling any revenge games.
It'd be like a like a
Grudge
kickoff,
match.
like a season kickoff type of situation.
Oh yeah.
Like to kick off the season, it'd be
Hmm.
perfect.
Oh yeah, that would be a fun one. We're gonna try to drum it up a little bit. But what you see, we're gonna have this available for everyone to see. We're gonna actually start posting the first couple of weeks on the Facebook page as well. But what you see, anything in light blue like this is a game that has to be played. Anything in red, this is after this. There's only 4 games total in FBS in week 0, so we put week 0 and week 1 together. But anything you see in red, there are only going to be a few of these. These are the few unfortunate games that we do have to play in Play Now. The first one that you're looking at is Notre Dame at Texas A&M at Kyle Field. So with Notre Dame being a special situation with the playoffs as well, and I'll get to them. But basically, we need to have Notre Dame play every game. Notre Dame, to get in the playoffs, you have to. I would love to have Notre Dame's coach on to see what he thinks about this. To get into the playoffs, you get an automatic bid if you are 10-2, if 10-2 or better, 10-2, 11-1, 12-0. Outside of that, Notre Dame is out. Really, you're considered on the bubble at 9-3, and you would be Notre Dame's coach is going to get fired if they finish at 8-4. That's really our only independent. That's the only one we really have special rules for. So they have a couple of games they play Notre Dame. I know they play SC, but all of the games that Notre Dame plays in the ACC against ACC teams or against AAC teams, they're in that same bubble. They're going to be in that dynasty. So those will be played out naturally. Everything else you see in gray, these are games where we have 2 FBS teams playing against each other outside of their bubble. That starts off SMU and Nevada. I was actually really looking forward to getting in game number 1. That's not going to happen. But then you've got North Carolina, Minnesota. And so week 1, you have a bunch of these games. And everything in white is just an FCS or below. Actually, I was pulling this up. There is a college I had never heard of, Mercer College. And they play 2 FBS schools right off the bat. Hello, Matthew.
LSU coach, right?
Going.
Oh,
Oh,
Goo Tigers.
yeah, it's just, yeah, going. Well, yeah, we'll go for Tigers for now.
Well, we've got 2 SEC. So right now we've got 3 Power 4 representatives in here. Again, myself. With us, Matthew. That's going to be confusing. That's my name as well. But you've got Chris Donaldson with the Bulldogs over there in Georgia, and Bryce Smith with Buffalo. Just to give you a quick recap of what you may have missed in the beginning, we're just going over the tournament and how we're going to do things a little bit different.
All
right, and going over the
Sounds
schedule.
good.
Everything you see in light blue are the games in week 0 and then week 1 after that. Up on screen. These are games that are going to have to be played, so I can go through it's a short list, so we can go over week 1. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this. You've got Akron. Trip to Ohio Stadium in Columbus against the Buckeyes. That's going to be a rough one. Western Michigan.
Week 1?
Yeah, this is week 1. Western Michigan at Wisconsin. Kennesaw State at UTSA over in the Alamo Dome. Miami of Ohio at Northwestern. I'm actually interested to see what the game's going to do because Northwestern really doesn't have a stadium yet. So those games could be absolutely awesome, the games played at Northwestern. I heard about playing at a soccer stadium on the lake. It's going to be interesting.
I saw pictures of that.
Yeah.
I don't see why they wouldn't do it. I don't know. Maybe it'll be that's going to be a lot of fun either to play there or play at home for them.
It wouldn't surprise me if they play at Soldier Field.
Yeah, I could see that. I think they've got a couple of games at Wrigley too. We have a surprise for the group of 6 when it comes to the playoffs too. Speaking of baseball, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. People are gonna hate me. I'm okay with that. Next up, we've got Sam Houston and Rice. That big one right off the bat, Notre Dame at Kyle Field down in College Station, Texas, against the Aggies. And then The nightcap, we have FSU's in here again. This time they are at home against Boston College. We've already had Boston College coach here on the podcast, and looking forward to that one too. Basically, as much film as you guys can give me on Florida State, I'm all eared for it.
So a good amount of the league is just going to be playing like their first game like as like against like an AI, right? Is kind of what I'm
Yeah.
looking at for week
Yeah.
one. Okay.
So let's just
I want to preface that. I think it's important.
any of these other games that you see in dark gray. So we're looking at North Carolina and Minnesota. Both of these teams are going to have to play that in the Dynasty, but we're not requiring anyone to play outside. Do these games and play now. We're trying to avoid that. We'll get into. We even found a way to avoid that in the playoffs, and we'll get to that here shortly. Again, Matthew, you missed the qualifier for the playoffs. Just really quick, I'm going to pop that back open for you. You've got. I can't see. I
Appreciate
can't
it.
even see it. You know what? I can do it another way. We'll do it this way. Tournament framework. So what you have here is I went ahead and filled in the bracket from the finish from last year.
Right.
So every team in every top 4 team in every conference gets an automatic bid to the playoffs. There's no at-large bids, so to speak. It's all based on finish. It's kind of like Texas high school football. You have to finish X to get into the tournament. For us, it's 4. That keeps it manageable. It keeps the Power 4 at either 16 or 17 teams. Last year, Notre Dame would have qualified. And then it just breaks down. I don't know if you... I don't have that quite over far enough. It breaks down a lot like the NCAA tournament for basketball,
Yeah,
where you've got 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, and then on the other side of the bracket we did basically the same thing. This is the group of 5 bracket over here, so 1-1 plays 1-2.
Okay.
So when it comes to the selection committee, all we have to do is we are ranking teams per group. So we're ranking the
Right.
teams that finished first against each other. We're ranking the teams that finished second, and just going down in order. So
Gotcha. Okay.
so if you finished, so like Louisville finished second in their conference. They probably would have not even been in the top 8, but they would wind up basically getting the 8 seed in the tournament. And then with this, all the playing games are going to be played. Basically, the playing games are going to be played. Okay, let me refresh. Sorry, this is getting a little complicated, but it's going to be easy once we actually get it rolling. So for the playoffs, because we can only have 32 teams in a playoff, in a dynasty, we're going to continue to have these games played out in dynasty mode. We're trying to work with EA and get a roster editor where we can pull these and play team versus team. If else, it may just be the base rosters from the beginning of the year. That's not how we want to have it done, but we're gonna do whatever we can to get it as authentic as possible. So you players may lose that digression. It may be week 1 versus week 1 every round of the playoffs.
And it's also a possibility that road to a playoff could also be in the game, and if that could be properly utilized, like maybe attempting to take the roster that we have and export it into that mode, that would be like ideal, perfect world situation. But I mean,
Yeah,
we'll figure out we'll figure out a way to get it done. It's the
Yep.
biggest thing.
But for now, the idea would be we would start a separate dynasty and have these teams play in week 1. So the first round games are going off of last year, you would have San Jose State against Memphis, Jackson State, Bowling Green, UNLV, Coastal Carolina, Ohio, Western Kentucky, and then West Virginia and Georgia Tech. The Power 4 get that playing game if Notre Dame qualifies. So with that playing game is just the last 2 teams, and they get the number 1 overall seed after that. So with that, basically they would schedule each other in week 1 or week 0, and then we would just play that out from there. So then you get to the second round of the playoffs. These are all basically going to be bowl games. Regarding in your dynasty, you are going to have to play that out to completion. If you get in the playoffs, you just play that out because again, that's going to impact your recruiting. We'll have a provision in there if you are playing against another player in the playoffs. I want to say we may just have to sim it out to be fair to everybody. May play it out if you guys can work in the time because we're going to be rapid fire on these games. So basically, we're going to have 5 dynasties with every conference grouped up. Like I said, you got the Big 12 in the CUSA, Big 10 in the MAC, ACC and AAC, and the SEC in Sun Belt. Just trying to keep it as geographical as possible, although that's not really possible anymore with the current state of college football, with everybody moving everywhere. I thought the kids at Stanford knew that where the Atlantic was, but I guess not.
I think the biggest thing is, and like just kind of not to sum it up into one sentence or anything, just win. Like if you win and you're top 4 in whatever dynasty you're in, play the games. If you're top 4, you get an automatic playoff bid, and then you end up playing a singular game on week 1.
Yep.
That's how the rounds of playoffs go. So just don't overthink it. Just make sure the biggest thing is make sure that the like the stats and stuff are coming in. That's like more so what like if you're a coach you should really worry about, making sure a lot of the information that is given to the league commissioner is correct.
Yeah.
So we can make sure everyone has correct stats and make sure we get. I'm sure we're gonna do like a end of the year award situation or whatever the case is. Because we might have different stats than what the dynasty says just based off of different games than play now. So
that's the reason why we're also throwing all of that out. We're keeping it simple. What happens in non-conference helps your recruiting. It doesn't involve any of your stats. Like at this point, it's hard to compare. You can't compare what you have to go through at Jackson State against a team like Ole Miss. Though that level of competition doesn't compare itself. So we can't really in good faith judge people on that. So that's one of the other reasons our coaching carousel is built on playing everybody in your conference. So this is just a natural progression of that. And it's the best way we can work around the 32 player problem and keep it fair for everybody. But again, you just finished in your top 4. That's about 30%, 33%, 1 in 3. I think the worst odds are 4 teams out of the 18 out of the Big 10. Outside of that, I think the best odds on our CUSA, I think they are at 12 because we are giving them UMass and UConn. So with that, because we're making a couple of changes and moving teams, we know that the schedules aren't going to perfectly align. That's okay. We can just schedule as best as possible. Because we know the Mountain West and the Pac-7, their schedules are going to get tossed up, churned around. But again, it just depends on if we can kill the Pac-12 or the Mountain West. We'll combine those teams into just one conference and play that as its own, which would work out better for us. But again, we're just assuming it's going to be the same as in 14, where you can move teams within a conference, but you can't kill a conference. Be nice if you could add one. I'd love to play around with that. And if anyone, this is something I don't think I've asked. What are your guys' thoughts on realignment within select talent? Like if teams want to move.
Oh, like certain people want to play each other and just realign.
If you want to move your conference, like let's say you're the coach at Stanford and you want to go back to the Pac-10, and a bunch of the other coaches want to go back to the Pac-10. Do we do that?
I think it'll come down to a coach's vote, right? Or the commissioner vote, maybe at that point.
Or then is it just a group vote between the teams in the conference?
Or because like if the commissioner sees like really good competition in a certain dynasty, I mean it would be kind of, I'm thinking like a little bit like differently as far as like views and like marketability, like as far as like trying to get storylines going in certain dynasties. If we see really good competition in one dynasty, I mean, I think we might be a little unfortunate to kind of split that up.
Yeah, that's why I'm not opposed I'm not for or against. It just is what it is.
I think it'll come down to the coaches. Probably be the easiest situation.
So, since you guys are on here, what are you looking forward to? What are your pros and concerns?
In
Yeah.
regard
Yeah.
to coaching or the game itself?
Both. Just there's your open mic.
I'm looking forward to the recruiting. That was always the fun part. Was
I
trying to
agree.
get get the fast quarterback or the fast wide receiver or whatever, and try to exploit those mismatches in games. That's what I'm looking forward to.
End up working on like a project type of person, and like you mold him perfectly into what you want. I'm really super interested in how they're gonna do the rating system, how you like level up, so to speak. How do you?
Right.
It says in like the Road to Glory, you can like manage your image and stuff like that. So I wonder if there's certain things that you can do as a coach to influence a certain player. Maybe if they're like stealing crab legs in a Wegmans or something. I don't something like that.
Oh, I'm a fan
Uh,
of chaos. I would love to see, like, in the old
Right.
NCAA
hire
games,
like a
you could
PI
get
or some crazy shit. I don't know.
in the old NCAA games if you had to manage your budget, and if you didn't put enough on player discipline, you you get the death penalty.
Yeah,
Lo-
yeah. I'm curious how in depth it's going to be. Hopefully, it's really in depth, so we can really dive into it like that. Recruiting is probably the funnest part. That and the games, of course.
Oh yeah, I'm one of the guys. I probably spend 2 to 1 Dynasty to gameplay. Like just when I'm looking through things, that's what I'm
How,
most looking forward
uh,
to is just how that's going to play out, how the transfer portal is going to look.
that's a big
Am
question
I
too.
ever going to
Yeah.
recruit a quarterback out of high school again? Being at SMU, I don't know if I'm gonna need to. It's gonna be interesting how they play how different it is coaching at Alabama or LSU, Georgia versus Buffalo.
I
Like
think
I'm,
it's
I'm
gonna be
interested to
worlds
see.
different.
I do. I think it's two different games. That's why we went ahead and split the playoffs because as nice as it would be just to put everybody in one big bracket, uh, Jackson State ain't gonna last against Michigan. That's not gonna.
Especially with the way they talk about how they're prioritizing like
It's
the
gaps.
fatigue and
Yeah,
like the skill gaps as well, like
yeah.
the repeated damage or like just like the continuation like throughout the game is pretty crazy. How much is everyone keeping up with their teams? I feel like that's a really important question as well. Like, are you like sitting there on the transfer portal? I'll check it every week or so or something like that. No one wants to play in Buffalo unless you want to trap or work at Home Depot, so it's not really it's not really all that great. I know Georgia obviously has a lot of noise coming in and out of there. I imagine they have they lost anyone big or have they gained anyone big? I haven't kept a lot of.
Yeah, they have. I haven't looked in the last couple of days, but I know that we had some good wide receivers leave, but I know we replaced them with other wide receivers.
Seems
I
to
know
be a lot of wide receivers everywhere.
yeah,
Every
I know that one of the running backs we got. I don't remember his name now off the top of my head, but I know he's under investigation for like
oh,
battery or something.
that's fantastic.
So we'll see, we'll see what happens. I'm also looking forward to the fatigue factor. I'm assuming we're going to play on Heisman, right? When
Oh
we
yeah,
play.
we're this is gonna
Um,
be easy.
I'm
The
assuming that it's going to be interesting to try and grind your practicing before the season starts or whatever to see if you throw the ball to a receiver 10 times in a row, how fatigued does he get if it does affect his performance. That's one thing I'm going to be doing before we get into the season is working on stuff like that to see
oh
if I
yeah,
hand the ball 25 times in a row, is my guy going to be exhausted? Is it going to take down a little bit?
is he gonna
Half.
die?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to be
Heat
tinkering
stroke.
with that and grinding,
Oh
tooth
yeah,
and nail, so to speak.
oh yeah. I know that the real ones. If you don't get the game 3 days early, you're gonna be 3 days behind. I know
Yep.
myself. I work 50+ hours a week,
Right.
so I need to take. I took a whole week of PTO just so I can keep
Yeah.
up with you guys, because I'm gonna learn a lot, and we're gonna adjust that. Yeah, basically because it is a video game and we have cheesers out there. I'm going to say that's probably the quickest way we're going to go to combat that is to bring that stamina bar down lower. Like I'm just making sure everybody's aware. If you're trying to cheese, that's the first thing that's the first thing we're going to look at. Because I'd rather not ban plays and go into that micro, but if we can adjust from the overall and just make it impossible for you to do that halfback dive 30 times in a row, we're
Nice
going to
master
do it.
setting would
You
be
can
really,
do
really
it.
nice, yeah.
You can do it, but it's at your own risk. That's where I'm coming from. The only other thing I think I would ban would be like non-fourth quarter from behind onside kicks. Just play the game, boys. Play the game.
Right.
It's football.
Such
If
a
you,
weird, it's a weird way to. It's like you're trivia, like just making it like not a game. It's weird. It's very, very weird. I get it. It's like if you're in like a tournament or whatever for like a whole bunch of money, I guess. You got to do what you got to do. But beyond that,
we're just
it's
looking for
weird.
people that can play with us. I would love to see what LSU Georgia looks like at year 3 after you guys have had 2 shots at each other, and then starting to get familiar, and then see how this thing goes. Like that's what the goal is here. It's like talent. We're
Right.
trying to just make it where we have everything available.
I have a question
Yeah.
here. Someone asked, so if we play the playoffs in year 2 and beyond, we play the game I'm playing now with regular rosters question mark, recruiting won't matter for playoffs. So like,
We have a plan. We have 2. One's the easy way, one's the hard way. People will be working on roster editors as soon as the game comes out. The goal is if we can, and again, EA, we'll pay you some money for this. If we can export the roster and then basically take each bubble, each dynasty, cut that, put it into another file, and then upload that file across. So even at that point, if we still play year 1, we'll have year 2 rosters. So
the biggest point
Right.
is I think is you will have your correct rosters. So
yeah,
yes, recruiting will matter.
now the only
Right.
the only other downside would be is if we can't get that. Bear with us. It may take the off season. May be an off season. It may take 2 to 3 weeks for us to, worst case scenario, manually edit that in, but we will. Maybe not have the same face, but we'll have the ratings will be the same at the end of the season. So with the way we're doing the playoffs, basically those 5 dynasties are going to stay. We're just adding another one, and then really we probably add one for each week. So if anyone's a real glutton for punishment and want to practice, we probably do that as well. But it would make no sense. Make no sense to play those out when they're just playing for a week. Do we have any other questions from any of the other chats? I know we've got a Discord going up too.
I haven't looked at the YouTube chat, but I actually had a couple questions. Chris, what's your background with the former iterations of the game, and were you like a super fanatic about it? I assume, like 14, 13, 12, I imagine.
Yeah, I played them all. I played literally from the minute I started. I played before college, all throughout college, after college until the game ended. I actually still have the recent game. I'll turn on my PS4 and play it occasionally, or whichever one it's on. I don't even remember anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I played them all. I played Dynasty with multiple friends, colleges. My brother. We play them, multiple years. I'm a diehard
Awesome.
addict for sure.
That's awesome. So, as far as your actual team goes, are you more so? I know you guys are pretty much like a built powerhouse. You really don't have to worry about too much in theory, unless of course injuries, all that stuff happens and whatnot. But are you going to kind of see what you can do with what you have, or are you going to attempt to kind of move people in and out? Are you going to shake things up royally? Are you going to what's your kind of coaching method or coaching plan without giving too much away?
Sure. And I don't mind giving things, giving it away. They still got to stop me.
Right.
I would say it's all about,
it.
to me, I'll be honest with you, I'm all about matchups. Whoever I'm playing against, I'm gonna look at your depth chart, find your weakest link. I'm gonna attack him every single time. So if you have a 55 speed outside linebacker, you better be ready to play in some pass coverage, and he's gonna be on a fast wide receiver or a fast tight end. It's not really gonna matter to me if I have an 87 speed tight end but the overall of a higher one that has a slower speed, I'm probably going to play the faster one because speed wins, speed kills.
Mm-hmm.
And defense it'll be interesting to see how the defense has changed since the game,
Right.
in 10 years. But overall in offense, I'm all about exploiting matchups.
It's awesome.
I'm a how do I call this? We're calling everything at the line. Everything at
Oh,
the
yeah.
line. I'm gonna micromanage my subs. I micromanage my subs. I micromanage my packages. I micromanage the package to fit into my audibles that may not be in the same formation. So I'm going to attack certain people in certain ways. And again, it's that Art Briles read and react. What's the defense doing? Okay, every play is an RPO. You're gonna load the box. That's fine. I got Preston Stone. I got a gunslinger back there. We'll throw it. If I gotta throw it 50 times, I'll throw it 50 times. You're gonna keep your safeties back. I'm gonna run it 50 times. I'm going off of what you give me, and you gotta stop what's in my brain. And I'm gonna, like I said, every play gets called up at the line. I already worked on fake audibles. Like you won't know what is coming next. But I got basically before I go into a live game, I've got about a month to practice. So just watch my highlights. It's gonna be fun. I plan on doing it a little bit different. Very meticulous when it comes to setting up my roster and my formation subs.
It'll be definitely interesting.
I'm right there with you as well. One of the things I want to mention as well is, I think it's going to be interesting to see which teams are successful. Like, for example, if let's say I play LSU, right, eventually,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to watch all your game tape. I'm going to write down every single play, how often you run it, in what game scenarios.
Bro's gonna have one of those arm wristbands.
Oh, you know it.
I have 3 monitors here. I'm going to have it up in here in front of me. Outside the game I'm playing, I'm going to know how often you run it on what down. I'm going to have all my statistics, because people say, well, I'm not going to show this play, in the future, but when it comes down to the game against another user, you're going to go to your go-to plays.
Right. Definitely.
So I'm going to have an idea of how to stop or try to at least, stop your go-to plays.
Yep, and that's going to be the difference. I'm scared that you have Georgia.
No,
that's fun. That's fun because I know not everybody in here is going to be the same level, and if you're not there, if you're not ready, this is where the elite compete. We don't slouch. Everyone's going to have their own way to attack you.
I think LSU is like really interesting because am I incorrect in like hearing that like a lot of players
Your
information? I'm not super sure.
A lot of players, what?
Yeah, you broke up.
It cut out.
Opted out of the game, or did they? Like, I'm not super sure if a lot of players opted out for like actually being in the game.
Right. You know what? To tell you the truth, I didn't take a look at the opt-outs for LSU. I know some of the guys did, but
I mean, LSU.
I'll have to look into that.
I wouldn't be as worried if I'm LSU because they said they're going off of what did they say in one of those releases? They're going off of like the last 10 years at that position. So I don't know how good Texas' backup quarterback is over the last 10 years. I know Baylor won 3 chips while you were over those last 10, but just saying. Our Manning may not be as good. The backup may not be as good. But if you're at a team like Georgia Southern or Georgia State, that may not have the same weight. LSU I would expect those guys to be solid across the board.
Me too.
Yeah.
Right.
Matt, it's really going to be interesting with those smaller schools.
What's your kind of background, Matt? As far as the game goes, did you play it like a lot, like back in the day, or are you just kind of getting back into it?
To tell you the truth, I played them when they were out, but I haven't played the college. I know they've made a bunch of mods and a bunch of different. I haven't played any of those. I haven't played 14 since it's probably been since 15 or 16 since I played. I mean, I played Madden, which ain't the same, but college football is more of a passion than pro football.
I think that's across the board. That's why we're all here.
That's why we're all here. No doubt. I mean, honestly, I ain't gonna have time to look at every play. I got full-time job and 3 grandkids, but
Life happens.
you just have to you have to use the knowledge to kind of read it as you're playing. The other team
I mean,
is
we've
one
got
thing.
some coaches in here too. We
Yeah.
had just an open chat on our Discord last week. With that, we found out one of our coaches was a GA at Troy when they beat LSU, like on the field.
Oh wow.
So we've got a couple
Yeah.
of high school coaches in here. I know for sure. Um, Again, experience varies.
Yeah.
I stopped at college hoops,
Right.
so football wasn't really my thing. I'm a little small for that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's an
I didn't play
interesting.
college football.
So one thing I do want to talk about is that we are trying to make sure we have everyone on board. So this next week, expect an email from what you supplied us with, but basically your official onboarding. We're going to try to get you a link to all the schedules, link to everything we have. We're still setting up a little bit behind the scenes, but we'll get everybody a link to our Google Drive. You'll have a folder. You can work your way through that. That's where you're going to find your schedule. It's where eventually the stats are going to go, and you'll be pretty easy to navigate once we get that up and running. You'll get that. We got a hype video that we're working on, just to make sure everyone's still there. Explain the quick minute video explaining the playoffs like we did. Then outside of that, to make sure we got a link for everybody in the Discord.
Yeah,
And
that's a huge thing. I think.
yeah, and then we also need everybody to like this YouTube channel as well. Like, make sure you're getting notifications from that, because that's a really easy way for us to send updates across the board. Like, we can make a 5-minute video going over last week's games, go over the standings, and we can do that at our own pace in real time, and that way it gets out to everybody. So that's a big thing I would have you guys look for coming up.
How are we gonna handle the Xbox players?
Well, that's why we're trying to get that final opt-in. Basically, nothing's official. You guys who get this email already have your teams. But what we will do is, we know we had a couple of Xbox players sign up. If they don't plan to get a PlayStation before July,
which we don't expect.
yeah, we don't. That's a pretty major expense. But if they do, we'll be more than happy to keep you on. If else, we are going to have a draft probably within the month, just to make sure. We have plenty of people in the on our wait list. We have another 5 people have signed up in the last week. We're going to continue pushing that out. We really want to have, because not everyone is like us here, like Chris, Bryce, and myself, that aren't going to have the full time to devote to it, because we expect some sort of attrition during the season. We want to have a rather robust wait list of about 70 players, just to make sure if we get to the point that we get 134 and we can put in custom teams, I'll be happy to have go ahead, go back through it, and have everybody start at a baseline with an FBS school and just run it.
For the teams that aren't picked yet, or whatever the case ends up being for those extra teams,
we'll have a draft.
Okay.
We'll have a random poll. We'll basically put everyone who is signed up or on the wait list into a pool. We'll draft that order. If your name doesn't come up in X number of slots, then you're still on the wait list. If you are, we're going to go ahead and get you a team right off the bat. I want to warn people, the list isn't great, but we have had a couple of people that have reached out and said they may not be in at some rather high-profile universities as well.
And the coaching carousel, guys, I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot more impressive and shaking things up than you think.
Especially
it's going to open up big schools. Point blank, period, simple.
Especially with the way, because we don't, if there is the bigger the gap is between a Power 5 school and a Group of 5, man, those Group of 5 teams are going to jump. They'll take that Indiana, Virginia. They'll just jump ship, because it's still, the grass is greener. So that's really where we think most of the movement's going to happen. It's not so much. I didn't think it was going to be much at first, but the more they talk about them having the gaps between 2 stars and 5 stars, I can see it. I can see it changing already. At least my perception of what I expect to go down.
I think it'll be a really nice mix because there'll be people. Full transparency, I picked Buffalo. I'm near Buffalo. I'm a Bills fan. I like the Bulls as well. But like I'm here to like compete and win, but like I'm not really all that worried about it. I want to build the league, bro. I want to get to a point where we're gonna actually build the brand, like build select talent as a league.
Uh, I'm
Sure.
a diehard Baylor fan. I'm still Baylor. I forgot the coach's name. Don't mess up. That would be pretty much the
I'm
only.
not a Georgia fan at all.
I mean, you
Ooh.
just lucked out, right, with your pick, right? I think at the end of the day.
Now
I think initially I was picked like 7 or 8, I think, and then obviously the coaches did opted
we
out or whatever.
we had two top 10 coaches opt out. They didn't ever get back to us. So
How do you have a top 10 pick? You're just like, eh.
oh, we got it.
I'll
I
be
did-
honest with you, I was in shock like when the draft order was going, and like I knew Ohio State was going to be up there, I assumed, and then like all of a sudden there was like these random schools, like I think Iowa was number 2. Or whatever.
Iowa was one.
I was like, what?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think anyone could have bet any kind of money on that draft. Everyone would have lost. Everybody.
I was in complete shock.
Me too. And I was the one. I was sitting there next to, like on the screen. Like, I was like, wow.
I obviously, I remember when I submitted my form or whatever at the beginning before everything happened. I put my top 7 teams. I knew I was getting one of those,
Right.
and the rest I could have cared less.
Right.
It'd be interesting.
Iowa,
if
West Virginia. West Virginia was the
yeah.
other big one that came
Yeah.
up. Then Hawaii, number 11. Hawaii, if you don't go, I've got one of my friends from Hawaii. He wants to join the league, but I told him that you're grabbed at number 11. I think Kennesaw is go off the board now as well. I know that was a big one.
Georgia Southern right there at 19.
That Georgia Southern is supposedly Grambling State. That's
Okay.
the next best thing. He still wanted GSU.
Gotcha.
That's a Madden beast right there in feet. I've known him for probably 6 years. It's been a minute. So basically, the people you see in green up here are the commissioners for the league. Basically, that's your selection committee, and we're going to have it where everyone's filtering information to them to get to us. And
Get to know your league commissioner is the big statement.
well, we're going to get all of that ironed out here shortly. Again, most of those wound up in the ACC. Going back from there, Notre Dame went 30th, which was kind of a shock that
Insane.
nobody wanted Notre
Looking
Dame
back at
before
this,
30, with
insane.
Kennesaw, West Virginia, Hawaii, Yukon. Even then, you even go to the halfway mark. Some of these schools, Oregon at 54, that was a special situation. That really was a top 25 pick.
Yeah,
That
Oregon
got-
was number 6 on my list.
Yeah, the reason Oregon's down there, we had promised a team if it was available to one of our guys, one of the commissioners. Phil, and Phil unfortunately lost that as soon as we found out that Omar Bradley played for the Cornhuskers. So this was a way just to pay that back.
Do we have anyone that's taken up the Cornhuskers yet, or is it still?
I'm not done with the Cornhuskers. We're gonna leave that there. We're gonna try to get Omar back.
Is he still here? Is he in the league?
He mentioned that he might not join us this season. He was really expecting it to be all 134 teams.
Oh, gotcha.
So again, I'm not gonna can't force anybody to play. But I think, and I
have
also
someone
think we
that
had.
asked. That's why I'm asking. I have someone that asked if they were available.
I mean, really, what we would do if Nebraska's not available, that's going to be tough. That probably would just go into a random draw at this point. So if anyone isn't happy with your team, There are a couple here that were Xbox players. I don't have it up on this list because it's just how we did the draft order. It's a chaotic mess. I was doing a whole lot of math. Uh, but with that, we'll have everybody jump in together, and we'll go from there. Basically, a random poll, and if anyone wants to jump into that, we cannot guarantee that you're going to get a team if you do want to put your name in the fray, because we'll do that draft in about a month. So if you were looking to move teams, still not the most ideal way to do that, because we do want to make sure it's filled, but we also want to give everyone an equal opportunity, like we did everyone else here. Is a random poll. So if anyone's watching, anyone catches this and wants to join Select Talent, by all means, we'll still have that random poll. We know we have a few slots available, and we just want to get ironclad commitments from everybody else. And again, with this, going back to our schedule, let me pull that up real quick. All of these games that are up, this is week 2, by the way. So basically the third week. All of the games in blue are the ones that are going to have to be televised, and red, of course, the Notre Dame games. Those are just going to stream live. There is a way to put in a delay on your stream, like 1 or 5 minutes. That way people can't be sniffing your plays live. Again, it's going to be up there for everyone to see anyway. But the way I see it, if you're really going to take the time to break down and watch film, it just saves you a little bit from drawing. You can basically get an idea of what people are trying to run, because everyone has the same set of 3 plays to choose from. There's other ways around that, but you'll find that out when I play Florida State. I'm coming for you, Slaughter Donkey. I want to get that bigged up first. But
I didn't know if you were gonna say his name or not.
Oh, I was.
Absolutely
I was
insane
absolutely.
name. No, like, how do you sit there? And
I mean, some of
Donkey?
these gamer tags are awesome. Your Breath Nasty. I mean, that just, if you know the let me just pull this up. NC State logo, if you have a gamer tag called Your Breath Nasty and your logo looks like this, I mean, Your Breath Nasty. It fits. That was awesome. We also had Jackson going to Jackson State. However that worked out, that was just how the cookies crumbled. Again, all I did when I was assigning teams and just went off of your list, and whoever was first, you'd go ahead, take that, pull that team off the pool, and go down the list. And we'll do the same with everybody else. Everyone joining the league, you're going to have to fill out your whole 1 through 134. Just make a spreadsheet and send it. Just all these names straight down. Other than that, I think we are good to go on
Pretty
that
much done.
end.
That was good. We
Pretty
actually
much.
got a lot done.
So,
Probably the most productive coaches show I've ever fucking.
hey, we're always improving, baby. We're always improving. Week 1 to week 2 is the most improvement. We're just trying to get to the first week.
Want
But
to button up a little bit of just a little run over of what we did. We did
Yeah.
the schedule
so
for week 0, week 1 and 2.
So, first off, for schedule week 1 and week 2, there's only one game. I'm trying to pull up my calendar because I did have someone ask when we're going to start this, and we're going to announce that here live on air. We are currently looking at the game drops on the 19th. For those of you who didn't spend an extra $30, we are going to give everybody a little bit of time. We are going to have the schedule broken up. We're going to break up the weekends to give people time to get in the games, because we realize that most people are available on the weekends. That's why that form you guys filled out at the very beginning was important to us, so we could just run numbers and see how we could break that down. We're basically going to have 2 windows throughout the week, starting off on Sunday, July 28th.
July 28th, boys.
July
Put it down
28th
in the book.
through July 30th is the week 0. That's when we will eventually get that game between Florida State and Georgia Tech to open us up. I encourage everyone to watch one of those two streams because I'm sure that it will be live and hot, and couldn't ask for pretty much a better matchup. You got Florida State with their setup, and then you got a running team with Georgia Tech. Then everyone else will start on July 31st through the 3rd. Again, what we'll ask is that we will probably have that set to auto forward at the end of the end of Tuesday night. We'll probably, again, we know I have people on the West Coast, so I'm thinking 4 a.m. Eastern time is when we're going to draw that. Same with 4 a.m. Eastern time on Saturdays. And we'll just have 2 windows to run the games. You, again, going back up here, if your game's in, basically you have to play all your games in the Dynasty. And the only teams that would have to play 2 are teams that play against Notre Dame outside of the AAC and the ACC, because that's the bubble that they're in. And then Air Force has to play the games against Army and Navy. I wasn't going to let the Commander-in-Chief trophy not be played out within Select Talent. That's a must.
It's a shame.
Yeah, that can't work in that as well. But again, we've got a couple of fun games on week 2. You got Michigan State at Maryland. Again, some of these conferences start their games early. Georgia Tech at Cuse. ACC plays a bunch of games really quick. Virginia, Wake Forest, Sam Houston at UCF. That's in the bubble. Baylor, Utah is a non-conference game that has to be played. Again, it doesn't. I'm interested to see how the game actually, if it can realize that that's a non-conference game versus an extra-conference game for Baylor at Utah. Liberty, New Mexico, San Jose State at Air Force, Oregon at San Diego State, Temple at Navy, and South Carolina at Kentucky.
So week 2 is when it really
Week
ramps
2 is
up.
when it starts, and then we'll get week 3. We're going to continue to work on this. The goal is to get that knocked out here relatively quickly.
We also went over the playoff seeding as
that's
well.
how I was going to go over last. With that, let me just pull this back up for you guys. So what we have here is the playoff bracket. Basically, it's split between the group of 5, or in this case, the group of 6. And the Power 5. So we have 2 champions, basically. We're going to have the champions play each other, but for all intents and purposes, there's going to be an award that goes out to the winner of the Power 4 and the winner of the group of 6. It's just based off of how you finish. To get a bid into the Select Talent Championship, you must finish in your top 4 in every conference other than the Mountain West and Pac-7. Again, if we can put those together in one conference, you would have the same rules apply. That conference would be in the group of 6. So anyone who lucked out with Oregon State or Washington State, you might actually have an edge. Boise State's in your conference as well. So the way things would look right now, the Pac-7 would really be, in my opinion, a 3-horse race between Boise and the former Pac-12 schools. But that also means somebody's going to stay at home. So just win, baby. Again, everything would be broken down by going. The selection committee just ranks the teams. Every team gets its own slot. In the Notre Dame qualifies with 10 wins or higher. If Notre Dame qualifies, we will have a play-in game. The play-in games are played at the higher-rated team's home. Much like how they're doing the college football playoff this year. The rest of these games are already preset with bowls. That allows me to go over the one last bit of information that we didn't get to. That is the unfortunateness of the power of the group of 5 playoff games in the quarterfinals. Going down the list, we had 4 bowl games that take place inside baseball stadiums. So every group of 6 team, if you make it to the quarterfinals, basically you lead 8 of your bracket, you're playing at a baseball stadium to get to either the Fiesta or the Peach Bowl. I got the Orange Bowl for the semifinal, and or for the final. That's at Hard Rock Stadium. The group of Power Four championship is at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. That's after the Rose and Sugar Bowl. One other thing I want to note: the Power Four playoffs, excluding the Alamo Bowl and then that first play-in game, are played in NFL stadiums across the board. That's one little thing we wanted to differentiate. So when we go to show all this live, it's going to look a little different. But again, I do thank you guys all for joining. Any final thoughts?
I can't wait. I'm telling you, it's going to be exciting.
Coming, boys. It's coming.
I talk about it every day.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Make sure you guys keep up on the on the news, on your team, the Discord. If you haven't been made aware of the information, be made aware, man. Get to someone, talk to a buddy. There's a lot of people, and yeah, I'm so ready, guys.
Until the season starts, we may check the Discord. I may just pop in every time I'm going to work on the league. I'm just going to pop in there, say hi. I may just have an open voice chat. If you have anything you want to say, add, trash talk, we're all for it. Just keep the trash talk professional. But again, most everybody's going to start. I'm going to reiterate this. We have one game, the 28th through the 30th. 31st, July 31st. We're going to get this thing rocking and rolling. That first weekend, that's Saturday, so we should have teams that play in week 1, not week 0, but week 1, Wednesday through Saturday to schedule those games. If you want to go ahead and jump on that, get on Discord, talk it out, schedule a time. Again, I know it's still 2 months out, so people may not have that ability. I know I can play on Sundays. And Mondays too, for that matter. So I'm a little flexible there. Other than that, it's probably going to be late for whoever plays me. Then again, Sunday through Tuesday windows, and then Wednesday through Saturdays.
Perfect. That's perfect, guys. I'll see you guys. Peace.
Have a good one.